Can you guys turn your microphones on?
Was that how you like guess like the number of members or something like how many kids we're gonna be like we're only staying
You might,
at the beginning.
yeah, it might. You might have a better view. So for
Becky, take your usual seat, Betty.
so Rich Claytor
Yep.
is a principal and senior water resources engineer at the Horsley Witten Group, a sandwich-based environmental engineering and planning company employing over 70 employees. His expertise is in hydrology, water resources assessment, watershed planning, stormwater management design, and land use management. Rich lives in Sandwich, Mass., and is currently a member of the Sandwich Historical Commission. He's a selectman appointed member of the Community Preservation Committee, a former planning board member, and former chair of the Sandwich Historical District Committee. Rich is the former principal engineer of the nationally recognized Center for Watershed Protection and has authored or co-authored 5 statewide stormwater management design and guidance manuals, and has authored more than a dozen papers and or guidance manuals on watershed planning and implementation. Rich has a BS in civil engineering from Union College in Schenectady, New York. He's a LEED accredited professional and a registered professional engineer. And we really appreciate you being here tonight to share information with us. And thank you, Conservation Commission, for organizing this. It's helpful for our planning board. We've been doing a number of educational sessions. So turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you all for putting up with me. I'm going to try and do about a 20-minute presentation on the topic here, stormwater runoff, the impacts, and then kind of the evolution of how stormwater management has changed over my career, really. I've been at this a little more than 40 years now, and it has evolved quite a bit. So I'm just going to give you a little bit about watershed basics and hydrology to set the stage, only a few minutes on that. We'll talk about the sources of pollutants and some of the impacts of stormwater runoff. Again, just a little bit on that. Then I'll talk about how the designs and system has evolved over time, and then I'll show you some green infrastructure or green stormwater infrastructure control measures, which is part of this sort of evolution. And hopefully I'll do this in about 20 minutes or so, and then I can certainly entertain questions. So we start with, in stormwater management, we start with hydrology, and we start with the watershed, and this little graphic just kind of shows you, highlighted in yellow, a sub-watershed to a contributing watershed for a stream with the range of land uses and types, and watershed can be any size or shape, and it can be as big as the Connecticut River where it dumps into Long Island Sound, or as small as your downspout from your rooftop. So understanding the size of the watershed is a lot and important in how we manage stormwater. I like to show the basic water budget balance slide here and kind of understand that precipitation drives stormwater management, rainfall. Some of that rain goes into the ground, and in a natural setting, it's different than in an urban or suburban setting. Some of it is stored in the surface depressions. Then we have runoff, direct runoff. It depends on factors I'll touch on in a moment. And then what doesn't really run off goes back into the ground, and it contributes to water supply during dry weather events. It's soil moisture that contributes to plant growth and evapotranspiration. So understanding all that is important in our designs and in our management. Runoff volume, the part that does run off, depends on how big the watershed is, how much precipitation occurs, how fast it occurs, the intensity, the soils, and then the land cover. impervious cover is very different than a forested cover in terms of how much runoff we have. A lot of studies have done this as a broad generalization, but on the left, about 50% of the precipitation on an annual basis in a non-urbanized or a rural watershed soaks into the ground, about half of it. Really only 10% of the storms generate runoff. The stuff that does soak into the ground, about 40% of that goes back up into the atmosphere as evapotranspiration. When we urbanize, and this is a lot of urbanization, but probably on the order of 50% development, that it shifts that whole water budget. We only get about 15% of deep infiltration that contributes to water supplies and low flows in streams and lakes during non-precipitation, and about 55% of that annual precipitation runs off. So it's a pretty big shift, and when that shift occurs, there are consequences. What are some of the major consequences? I'm just going to list sort of 3 of them here. There are a lot of nuances to all of this, but flooding, depending on the size of the flood of the storm, it can be catastrophic flooding, it can be nuisance flooding. It's a huge range depending on the size of the rainfall and the amount of runoff. Water contamination. Pollutants that run off of the land surfaces, carry those pollutants and get into the receiving waters. Depending on the pollutants and depending on the sensitivity of the receiving waters, there are a range of consequences. And then stream channel or stream scouring or erosion at many scales. Again, it can happen in your backyard from your downspout and little gulling, and it can certainly happen in bigger watersheds, and we see a lot of effects of that. And when we do get scouring and erosion, that sediment gets carried downstream. That becomes one of the pollutants. So it's not just the impact of the stream itself, it also impacts the quality of the water. Some of the most common pollutants from different land uses include nutrients and pathogens, bacteria, range of nutrients, particularly phosphorus and nitrogen. Nitrogen being a very important pollutant to our coastal waters, phosphorus more so in our freshwater lakes. So in like the Great Bay, for example, many communities are now required to manage extra nitrogen to keep the eutrophication in Great Bay down, to keep the water quality in Great Bay in check. And they're generally doing that with wastewater treatment plants, and some of it with stormwater management in a less centralized or less dense development and without sewers. Your role in a place like this is to try and manage the stormwater to address those nitrogen loads. Stormwater probably accounts for 15 to 25% of nitrogen loading in a non septic dominated watershed. In a septic system, depending on how much septic systems you have, that number tends to go down a little bit. So I would say the range is between 10 and 25% of the total loading to receiving waters. The other things, I just list them here: sediment, salt, oil and grease, herbicides, fertilizers from various land uses contribute to impacts, toxic pollutants, and then things like detergents and whatnot. And something we don't think a lot about is thermal stress. When we pave surfaces, we alter the temperature of the stormwater runoff. And in trout waters and cold water fisheries, that can have a significant impact on the fishery. So what's happened over time is we used to design stormwater mostly for flooding and mostly for nuisance or big flooding. We weren't terribly concerned about some of the pollutants. And we would put in large detention type structures to hold the water back and release it over a longer period of time. We like to collect the water in a convenient way. We would use either roadside ditches or pipes and drainage systems to convey that water quickly to these detention structures, hold the water, and then let it go. And the evolution has been to try and manage that precipitation closer to the source. When a runoff comes off of a building, you try to get it back into the ground near that. When it comes off of a parking lot, you try to put it into the ground or infiltrate it or filter it close to the surface. You break it up along the way. What that does is it allows more water to go back into the ground to help with that imbalance between the undeveloped and the developed watersheds. So I have no less than 500 photos that look like this from my 40-plus year career of detention ponds that have been built in all kinds of land uses. You can see this one in the upper left is actually starting to take on a little bit of a wetland component. One of the things about these detention ponds, aside from the fact that they sort of are single purpose in flood control, is they also are kind of hard to keep dry, and so they get mosquito and they get kind of nuisance conditions. They're hard to maintain, and they're not terribly pretty, in terms of aesthetics. So living next to one is not the greatest thing. I'm only showing you 4 here. So this little slide just shows this sort of continuum from, we'll call it flow control on the left, to soaking more water into the ground on the right. And I do want to emphasize that the 3 little icons with the bowls are still needed. These, we still do need to manage stormwater to address flooding, to address that increase in runoff that we see in altered land use. But what we've tried to do in the designs is to figure out a way to infiltrate more runoff along the way, using different types of land surfaces to get the water to be stored along the way, and then vegetation and good soils to allow the stormwater to uptake pollutants and to facilitate infiltration. I just show this slide because it's what we're trying to mimic with this evolution. We're trying to mimic kind of a forested natural landscape. If we're going to try and take that hydrology back to the pre-developed condition, we need little storage pockets and pocket wetlands in the landscape. We need forest cover. We get a lot of benefits from tree canopy in terms of dispersion of rainfall. The roots of trees help facilitate infiltration, and then the organic matter in the soils do a great job at breaking down pollutants. So the more we can mimic a natural system with our designs, the more effective we are down the road. So getting into a little bit of green infrastructure, and then I'll go through a few sort of next steps. But essentially, green stormwater infrastructure is like stormwater can be a resource. It's not just something that's dealt with, piped off the site and dealt with. Again, we try to manage natural conditions or mimic nature. We do want to maximize infiltration along the way, and we like to put those stormwater control measures or best management practices, BMPs, throughout the landscape, and recognize that these types of controls have multiple benefits. It's not just the one flood control thing, and it contributes to like a more sustainable site design. So that's the sort of the approach. I'm going to talk about 5 different practices that we use that are highlighted in red here: bioretention or rain gardens, swales and channels for conveyance, infiltration practices, which also includes permeable and porous surfaces, and then constructed wetlands. I'm not going to talk about rainwater harvesting, green roofs, or non-structural controls. Those are in the toolbox. I just don't have time to do it and get done here in another 4 or 5 minutes. So biofilters or bioretention is a vegetative soil media-based practice that filters stormwater through a constructed soil media. A rain garden is a smaller version of that, where we just build a little hole and kind of augment the soils with mulch or compost. This is a very elaborate, 2 different versions, one in kind of an urban setting, one in more of a suburban or rural setting. Stormwater comes into it, filters through the soil, can infiltrate underneath the ground, or can be piped off in a pipe. A couple of photos from what we call hard edge or soft edge facilities. Soft edge on the left doesn't have any curbs or any retaining type walls, but they're using these in urban areas. They're using them all over. And these practices are now pretty widely used. A planter is a bioretention. I call it bioretention in a can. Typically used to take rooftop runoff and store it, but it can be used in different places, so it's a hard-edged version. Swales, we have all kinds of different kind of swales or channels to manage stormwater. They can be wet. On the left-hand side is a wetland swale and has standing water and where shallow groundwater exists. The one at the top is from Somersworth, not far away, in a parking lot. Takes this runoff off of the parking lot. It's turf-based. It infiltrates runoff. One next to a road is a lot like a linear bioretention, and the one on the far right is sort of a hybrid. It's got kind of a flow, what I call flow in and flow out. If you look very carefully, you can see 2 little channel, the red car in the far background. The flow comes in there, flows through that system, and then when it fills up, it flows back out and goes down the street. Infiltration, we use a lot of different tools to get the water back in the ground. These big chambers, we do surface basins, and we do trenches. Underground in parking lots, designed to let the water infiltrate. The upper right shows an infiltration basin. The stormwater comes in, has no other outlet from the ground. And then, different types of storage components. The key thing in infiltration is you have all this water coming in at a high rate, and it's slow to infiltrate. So you have to store it temporarily. So you either store it in chambers, you store it in a surface basin, or you store it in some kind of a leaching basin, or you store it in the voids of stone. Permeable surfaces, there's a lot of different options for that, including concrete, asphalt, pavers, reinforced turf, these plastic cups up at the top of the slide, and you'd see the car in the parking lot, in the green parking lot. That's in Connecticut in a mall in overflow parking where they used these reinforced turf for the holiday shopping peak. So a lot of options there. There are a lot of things I can answer questions about these. Tree trenches or pits are ways that we get the stormwater into the soil media, and then it's conveyed in, and we plant a tree in there. And those can be done at very small scale, like the catch basin in the upper right, or a series of them, like on the left-hand side, and then the schematic there. Incidentally, I'll let you have this slideshow so that you guys can either post it or keep it or use it again. And then lastly, constructed wetlands. These are those detention type structures, but we add wetland elements to them. And what those do is enhance the pollutant removal, particularly nitrogen, because we can denitrify systems in wetlands. And I'm just going to show this one picture of a constructed wetland in Gloucester, Rhode Island. In the upper left is, after we finish building it, or right towards the end. And then 5 years after, they're kind of amazing that you can't really tell that they are a constructed system. And the vegetation really takes off if it's designed properly. Very effective for a lot of things, including habitat, and they can certainly be designed. They don't become mosquito, habitat. So I'll conclude with this, just some of the things that we're doing as this evolution in stormwater continues. One of the things is getting some of these components into local ordinances and regulations so that applicants know how to design these things and know what's sort of expected. So there's a big push in a lot of communities to update their ordinances. We are doing different things to treat stormwater. Biochar or activated carbon is an enormous benefit. Places that are really trying to up the pollutant removal are using some of these things. Iron filings actually allow for attaching pollutants to the iron and really upgrade the pollutant, particularly phosphorus. So in a lake area, you might consider that. Permeable reactive barriers, these are organic trenches in the groundwater that will filter nitrogen out of the groundwater. And then automated drawdowns, this picture or the graphic on the lower left is there's technology out there that basically is linked to the National Weather Service, and they have automated orifice valves. They will draw down a water body in anticipation of a storm. So you can, they can be smaller, number one, and then more effective depending on the size of the storm. Phytoremediation, won't go into that. That's a topic all of itself. Climate considerations, we are seeing more higher intensity, short duration, really strong microbursts. So understanding that hydrology and designing for that is pretty critical. Wide-scale implementation, there's models now, this OptiTool model for, this is mostly in when you're going back and trying to retrofit a watershed, but putting these things in where no stormwater existed in the past to try and capture pollution and optimize them. Education like this, so a wide range of educational tools to deal with our general lack of knowledge on the benefits of this. And then long-term performance, really it's design modifications for target pollutants. Like I said, if you're in a lake district, it's kind of different than if you're discharging to tidal waters and you're trying to do that. Understanding the importance of maintenance and the ease of maintenance, and then finally tying monitoring results back to design. So we learn from what works and what doesn't work. So it was a little longer than my 20 minutes, but a little fast. I'll entertain any questions. I know I covered a lot of material in a fairly short period of time, but happy to ask a question. Rob.
Thank you, Rich. And for full disclosure, Rich and I went to college together, so I've asked him to come here as a friend as part of our whole resource program that both Becky is having done at the Conservation Commission and Kristen here. So you talk about what the town could do to promote or encourage these. And I know one of the challenges we always have is the cost of doing these new systems or the cost of regulation, and balance that with our goal to increase economic development, commercial development. So there's always that kind of trade-off, I think, that has challenged us for many, many years, trying not to be a friendly town for development and retrofitting. So what are the costs of these? How can we look at it if we, I think most of us would love to take the pollutants out of the water and have more water going into our aquifers for our wells. How do we balance that potential for cost versus, you know, the environmental benefits?
Yeah, it's a good question. In general, the capital costs for this kind of design, these kind of stormwater facilities are not more expensive. Yes, if I'm doing just a hole in the ground with turf, and then I'm gonna add vegetation, I've gotta pay for some of that cost to add some vegetation. But a lot of these proprietary structures are made out of concrete, they're very expensive, they're underground. I think the cost for design is more, because there's more thought going into it. For an engineer, it's fairly easy for me to pick a proprietary product off the shelf and design a rectangular detention structure. It goes pretty fast. So when I'm giving a developer a price, I can give them a pretty competitive price. If I have to design 5 little rain gardens for my project or a constructed wetland, that's gonna take more time, it takes more expertise in this. So there's more cost generally in the design and planning, but, you know, capital costs generally are it's a 10-to-1 ratio. Design is 10% of capital construction costs. So most of your money is going into the stuff that's going into the ground. And then long-term life cycle costs can be a lot less expensive for some of these systems that are self-maintaining. The constructed wetland is one of the least maintenance intensive practices out there. Those vegetation come in, they kind of take care of themselves. You provide a place where you can remove sediment, and that's kind of all you have to do. Some of the rain garden systems, we plant them with grasses that don't need much, you know, maintenance. So it's all about design and owner understanding. So you would not necessarily design a very elaborate bioretention or rain garden with fancy vegetation that has to be, you know, pruned all the time, that has to be, you know, weeded and keep the aesthetics. You plant something that is in line with the maintenance. So we've done an enormous amount of this work, and we use the conventional practices where need be. We use these kind of practices when we have affordable housing clients that are very tight with their money, and they value engineer, you know, remove things that aren't necessary out of the designs, and we use these exact same practices, and we give them cost competitive designs. So it certainly can be done.
Yeah.
It requires a little more careful design, and probably on your part, an understanding of what you're approving. But it's not like, oh, the old way is super cheap,
Right.
and this new stuff is super expensive.
Because once you have all the heavy equipment out there, you know, you have digging a hole, you're filling it with different layers for a constructed wetland and
Man,
things
and
like that.
don't get me wrong, like these big chambers that I showed, we use those for a lot of projects because land consumption is part of the cost too, right? So if you've got to build a parking lot and you need to put your stormwater somewhere, you're going to try and put it underground because you can't afford one of those big detention structures. So they tend to eat up a lot of land. So what you want to do is balance, you know, how much land you have, how much uplands you're going to have, and that's a cost.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because one of our challenges not having water is we need to have wells and distances and leach fields for our septics, which take up a lot of space already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Once a constructed wetland is constructed, obviously, it's going to have certain protections for it. So the maintenance schedule of that, how do you incorporate that into the protection of a wetland?
Yeah, it's an operation and maintenance plan, and that typically is done with conditions at your approval stage that it has to be maintained, just like maintaining a detention pond or a proprietary water quality unit has to be cleaned out, or catch basins, sediment has to be removed. You have a long-term maintenance requirement. You just have to define what it is and how often.
Fair enough.
So like a constructed wetland, the most important thing is to get the sediment that's coming into the inflow. We design a little forebay that's easy to remove that sediment. It tends to be dry, So it can be just, pulled out with a, backhoe bucket or a loader, front end loader. So you have to, the short answer is you have to have an operation and maintenance plan with that, and you have to define what the maintenance is. We generally don't harvest any of that vegetation, let it grow.
Okay.
Same thing, those are the same pollutants that you have in catch basins. From residential land uses, those are, the pollutants are below any kind of threshold for disposal. For commercial land uses or for some industrial land uses, those sediments have to be disposed of in different areas. It's typically, a lot of times it's used as a landfill cover. Inexpensive, they need soil for that. They'll put them on that. These concentrations aren't threats to human health. They're threats to water bodies. They increase the nutrient loading in the water body, and then the algae grow and you get bad consequences. But in general, the metals, sometimes it's just sediment as a pollutant. The concentrations of nutrients are low enough that you can just use them for a different kind of fills. Yeah. You can generally landfill it. There's been enough testing of that. And generally what we do for our municipal clients is we do a characterization of their typical sediment and then give them disposal options. So you would do catch basins, which is a conventional stormwater practice that you have to clean out. You test that and you say, okay, these can be done as a landfill disposal or as other use, just general fill if it's okay for that. Sometimes these, if they're nutrient laden, they're actually used for, in conjunction with like a compost. You do analyze it, but you characterize just the land use. You don't characterize every single site. So you do a little characterization, and it can be done regionally. This is the kind of thing that UNH, would do, and they've done a fair amount of that research. So, they in fact have a lot of this already done. So you would say, okay, so these kind of land uses, you have to deal with this sediment. You calculate how much you're going to expect to remove over what period of time, and then you arrange for it ahead of time.
Most of these instances, private property,
Yeah.
the town has a few catch basins for some.
Yeah.
Department cleans up the sump, goes over the bank.
Goes over the bank, yeah.
But your situations on rural country roads, so you have the salt, kind of looking now,
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest.
Salt's a big problem, just in general, because that doesn't go away. I mean, it's soluble, so it gets in the water and it stays there.
You have many tributaries. The largest river in town is the river, which goes into Great Bay.
Yeah.
So that's something that a lot of us in the district have been working on. We had, just counting the page, we have like a 16-page ordinance section for stormwater management. Ryan is luckily a long time. His personal understanding of the situation, plus the RPC, European Planning Commission, has helped, and Rob was brought in the stormwater situation. But typical, this board's probably typical of most, and was typical, no real knowledge of a lot of these practices, and a lot of them are very new practices. So I guess the question for you, you're in that business, if the town had the resources to say to somebody, here's these 16 pages of stormwater ordinance, without rewriting the book. Again, I totally agree with Rob. We have to have a balanced cost-wise in what we're doing.
Right.
Management practices. we have somebody like yourself possibly to glance through our ordinance, highlight, give some general
Yeah.
notes as to what we are concerned, that's something your firm does?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. We review, we do call to code audit, we kind of go through the code and say, what are the areas that could perhaps be improved? What are the implications of changing something? What does that mean? Either for cost to the applicants or more work for you guys or for your staff. And then, yeah, no,
Not,
That's-
take away from Glenn, he's just overburdened.
no, and I mean that very sincerely. but-
Yeah, so.
So, yeah, and then you would sit down and say, okay, here are the 5 things that we would recommend making changes to. And you would say, okay, 1, 2, and 3 seem okay, could we do it, but 4 and 5 don't make a lot of sense because we can't afford, we don't have the staff resources for that, or we think there's gonna be other implications.
So we started by handing the packet, 16 pages. We asked you perhaps to give us an estimate, not to go over the introduced plan, but to give us an estimate of what the
Yeah.
cost would be. So you have some
Mhm.
knowledge, giving some facts.
Sure. Yep. And then getting back to your disposal, your operation and maintenance plan often will identify what your anticipated disposal loads would be. How many yards of sediment would you expect coming out of these on an annual basis? And normally, we don't remove sediment once a year anyway. Oftentimes, on these these kind of practices, it's like every other year or every even longer. And then you would say, okay, this is for residential land use, we can get rid of it, anywhere.
In our case, I think maybe we have more than 2 or 3 private enterprises that approve the last decade or 2 that have a management plan.
Yeah.
So what typically happens in a small town, people lose track of these things. It's not cost effective in our cases for owning the property. Vegetation goes up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're approving a 3-lot subdivision, right, the best way to manage that runoff is with something called a rain garden, small rain gardens that address the runoff from the small road that might go in there serve them and the driveways and rooftops. And the disposal of that sediment can happen in their backyard, or it can go to, a transfer station. So a lot of different ways, and typically you'll mix it with like a leaf compost, and it can be compost. There's a lot of options for that. It really depends on the land use and the size and and the pollutants you would expect.
Are there any best practices that you could point us to, or any town ordinances that you think do, any model ordinances?
Yeah, there are. I think I would have to. I can follow up with UNH. They've done some model ordinance work. The Stormwater Center, UNH Stormwater Center, and Dr. Jamie Houle has taken a couple of model ordinances.
In a town like Brentwood, we need somebody with some expertise tailored to our.
Yeah,
Well, our stormwater management ordinance was written by Bill Sparcieri.
Yeah, I know, certainly know Bill, yeah, VHB,
He
yep.
patented it after newly adopted, now it's been 15 years, stormwater management manual that PBS adopted.
Yes, Right.
Based our ordinance on the rules that they use for their operation of drain.
Yep.
Permit. So it was done by someone who absolutely knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been looked at in 15 years.
yeah, no, I think we could look at it. Sounds like it'd be a pretty light lift, and the fact that it's not that old, and it is based on the current stormwater manual. It's had some minor modifications, but yeah.
Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the changing climate and, some of the microbursts. And does that lead you, or do you target different designs due to that kind of, climate change that we're having?
We're sizing our control measures for different size precipitation. We've upped the precipitation numbers. We put factor of safety into that, and there's 2 things. One is the routine storms that are still fairly routine. but ensuring that we don't have washouts and we don't have sort of catastrophic flooding. So you look at a bigger storm and a bigger volume of water over a shorter duration. And then and that would be an area where you would put something in an ordinance, say, we're not going to be using data from 40 years ago. We're going to be using the latest data, and we might put a factor of safety in it because we don't actually know really what to expect in the future.
Yeah.
So it's like engineers, we use factor of safety all the time. We use it in structural, we use it for highways, we use it for all of our designs to take care of uncertainty.
Has the 100-year or 50-year storm modeling changed at all?
The 100-year storm is bigger than the more recent data. If you take more recent data, last 10 years,
Okay.
those precipitation events are more rainfall. Those
Okay,
100
so
years
that model has been updated and has been changing throughout the years?
Yeah, the NOAA Atlas 14 is called the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration has confidence intervals of return frequencies, and we are now using we're not using the median of all their data, we're using the highest end of that to design these facilities. Again, it's all based on past data, but we're not looking at rainfall from 50 years ago. We're looking at rainfall from the last 20 years.
So that's an important component of our ordinance.
Yes.
State level.
Yeah. It should be statewide, but it should also be done at the local level. So big issue, and it's reality. I mean, we're seeing it. It's not a mystery. Well, we could stay here all night and talk stormwater
Any
if
last
you want.
questions?
Yeah.
But what I will do is I'll email you a PDF of.
Okay. And do you mind if we post it on our website?
No,
That's
not at
okay.
all. Not at all.
Great, thank you.
And I'll make sure the file size isn't too big. I think I sent you one, Rob, that was pretty manageable. Yeah, yeah, sure. I think that was the final. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back up here.
Yeah. Do you need help with anything? I don't think it's
And it's
connected.
not gonna let me, is it?
All right, now that we're moving into business for the board, does anybody want to make, thank you, motions to bring people onto the board this evening?
Yes.
Yeah, I make a motion to add Mark Kennedy to the, or he's already here, huh?
He's already.
Okay, sorry. I make a motion to,
Oh,
we,
no, we need to vote, both these guys in, sorry, I could have been
Okay.
more specific.
According to parliamentary procedure, you do.
So,
So we have a
I
motion.
made a motion, yeah,
add-
to bring Mark Kennedy to the board.
Okay, I think we can do both, because we're missing a lot of people tonight.
Super. Let's do Mark Kennedy and Brian West.
Well, Brian's here too. I was counting you as part of our meeting.
I'll
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Are you taking notes for yourself? Or, yeah, okay. I'll do the minutes. I can't do the minutes. Okay, thank you.
I mean, I can do the minutes
Glenn,
if you'd like.
Do you
me
want to
to.
just flip the sign around? Because I think it's on.
Yeah, you should-
right now.
We should volunteer for that next time, just until we
Yes,
get some.
yeah, we're gonna
Just
have
so you
to
don't have to do it.
rotate, well, apparently,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to rotate
Right.
until we have somebody. our member who took minutes last time had a baby, in case you guys had not heard that. All right,
I know, the original baby isn't
All right.
a baby.
What's our policy on letting people off on maternity leave? 30 days? You're a very technical person.
14. No, we're very happy for her. Waiting for
Sure.
Glenn to.
You know how to open it.
Very true.
Where did he go?
He went to get a piece of paper.
Piece of paper.
To take the minutes.
You want to get settled? Okay. Do you need the screen?
Yep.
We do.
You don't need, nope, you don't
No.
need to. You don't need to.
The dongle.
Do you have Teams? But I do need the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Is there Wi-Fi?
Yeah, what
There
is it?
is.
Yeah.
I can.
Be our guest. Join. Yeah.
If I put these on, I would. Can you see it, or do you want, I can write it down?
Put her glasses on. I think it's happening.
It's still trying to connect, so I have
Okay.
the worst luck when it comes to computers. So it might be easier for me just to plug directly in.
Okay, do you have HDMI?
Oh, it just connected.
You just had to threaten it a little.
Yeah, usually that's what happens. We're throwing it.
So while you're doing that, I'll just read what we're doing here. So this is a site plan review continuation for Greg Lambert and Sons site on New Hampshire Route 125. The tax map and lot number are on your agenda. It's a site plan design proposal for the construction of a new driveway, an 8,000 square foot contractor building, and a 12,000 square foot surplus sales building. And there's a request for a conditional use permit for retaining walls, dumpsters, utilities, parking, and drive aisles within the wetland buffer.
Which I believe was approved last time we met, along with the waivers. Is that Zoom or is it Teams?
Teams.
That is Teams?
And we have Glenn's comments, which are that all of your
All of my
comments have been addressed.
comments have been addressed and they were.
Yeah, everybody should have in your packet.
Oh, did they all get one?
Yeah, there's 2 letters. That look like this.
One is a response letter to my comments and one is a response letter to Chris Raymond's comments.
So the conditional items would be.
You got it?
Some things here with.
Oh.
You can get closer if it's because it is small text. There will be no judgment.
At this point, just hold the board.
Now, is there judgment if I ask somebody how to join a Teams?
Is it on your agenda?
No.
Oh, wait, what's your email?
She should just type it in.
Oh, Chris is gonna send you an email.
Mhm.
I got boards.
Mhm.
I kind of like this feature that it just shows like the back of our heads. You know?
Yeah.
It irritates me that it's reversed. It's the only thing that I can't deal with.
Sometimes it's best not to hear what we say.
All right, so I'm not getting anything, but we'll get started, so I'm not
Okay.
wasting any of your time. So, do you want to come up here where he was sitting before?
You might have to
All right, so as we started to explain that the last time we were here, we did get approvals on the waivers and the conditional use permit. So what is left on this is the site plan application approval. A couple of the comments that were had were about, and I apologize for not being here last time. I would have rather been here than where I was because I had a faraway meeting that was 2.5 hours away. So I gave my colleague a closer one. So last time I was told that there was comments regarding the forklift path, making sure that that was out of the wetland buffer area. And just to show you this dashed line here is the septic setback. That's not the wetland setback. The wetland setback is that 50-foot line right there, and then no disturb line is the interior. So we have moved the gravel path out of there, made sure we had the grading line on there, grade lines on there. It is a little steeper than a regular driveway, but forklifts are able to handle that. So it's not going to be a travel path for customers or anything like that. And we even kept the curb going across it so that it would just be traveled over by the forklift. So that there was no confusion to not go in there. The other items was the fire protection. So we had shown a 45,000 gallon cistern last time. Zoom in here. We showed a 45,000 gallon cistern on the plan. Based on the study by SFC, it's looking like it's going to be more like a 30,000. So what we show on our plans is actually conservative. It would be an underground tank, so we don't have to worry about bollards or anything like that. And it can be accessed from the end of the pavement here. So it is actually in a really good position. It's right near the buildings. This cistern would be connected to both the contractor building and Brentwood surplus. So that would cover both buildings.
Is that a pressurized system, fire suppression? Or are you just having a dry hydrant?
That's a cistern.
Well, I know it's the cistern, but the cistern is actually supplying water just to a tank truck that coming from.
So,
Correct.
yes, well, it could be that.
When you say connected to both buildings.
Yes, so there is an email from the fire department, the fire prevention officer, that said the current plan is to do a cistern with sprinklers in the building. That can't be, we can't engineer the sprinkler systems because we don't have building plans yet. So the only thing we can do is the cistern sizing. So that will be done during building permit
But you wouldn't have any
phase of
pumps.
this.
in a cistern? Do you have a pump that pumps water out of that, or will they have to draft?
So it would be pressurized, so it would have to be a pump. Yeah. But that's what your sprinkler room is inside of your building.
Mhm.
houses that.
And when you restore that water that's been utilized,
Yes, so it can be restored a couple ways. It could be restored by the well, or it could be restored by bringing water on site. So as far as the comments, TEC comments, there were some very minor comments that they had, and we have addressed all of them, so that we did provide a two-page, page and a half letter of response to their comments, as well as a response to the conditions in Glenn's memo. So things like the impact fee endorsement block has been added. The recordable site plan Mylar, we typically create that because Rockingham is, registry is very particular. So we usually create a separate plan for that removes some of the text conflicts and everything that they do not like in order to record. As far as the signage is up front. There's a freestanding sign in front of the property here. That's right next to the wall. And then there was the notes that were added to the site plan sheet, which will be on the recordable site plan sheet as well. And then on the cover sheet, we did replace the vicinity map so that it was per the regulations. I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Those were the issues that we had last time. We sort of felt like we were getting the information about the cistern late in the game without having heard back from the fire department. The fire department has gotten back to us and said that they are that they do approve of the plan as provided now.
So you don't have any outstanding, right?
I know of no outstanding issues.
It was the cistern and the forklift path, I believe, were
They were
the issues prior.
surprised us. And you have, and the reason they moved that, the forklift path, was because if they kept it there, they'd have to do a conditional use permit, and that was cumbersome, because it wasn't really necessary. And we saw that immediately, and
There was no need to add.
right,
ask
that
for
they
it.
would just pull it out. So it works out much better with it not being.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts, if any, on requirement of a bond for some of the infrastructure, the roadway, system? Is that something that you?
That we really leave to Chris.
Well, right, so, but I mean, I don't know, if the applicant, is he aware that we usually require a bond structure for somebody to come up with a bond on that?
I mean, it's typical to do a restoration bond in towns right now. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Yeah.
he's talking about performance bond.
The performance bond?
For the
Yeah, where there's-
installation of stormwater
Well,
devices.
yes,
or the
stormwater,
roadway or
and like
what-
that roadway to make sure you get that forklift path out of the water. So usually what the applicant does is come up with a bond amount.
Yeah.
And the town engineer reviews that. And that's set before final approval.
Yeah, we usually do the cost estimates for our clients, so we can provide that.
That can be done through, a condition of approval,
Exactly.
allowing Chris
Right.
to work with them to establish that bond.
There's no state permits outstanding? Or?
So we have our alteration of terrain, is days away. We've addressed all comments, it's just vacation right now. New Hampshire Fish and Game had a couple of comments, so they were waiting on that. But New Hampshire Fish and Game has cleared us.
Do we have a copy of that? A copy of the law?
I can give you a copy of that. It basically, they were questioning the buffers because they're different in Brentwood because they deal with the point system. So they were just asking what the buffers came from because they weren't state buffers because the state doesn't have wetland buffers. And what would be in the buffers as far as planting and temporary and permanent impact. It was the second time they've gotten it because they got it through the wetland application as well, but it's a different person that reviewed it again. So those were the comments that they had. There was nothing major on it. As far as the AOT comments, we've addressed that. We've actually gotten our waiver for groundwater recharge on that because they understand that our water table is really high, and unfortunately infiltration is not a possibility on this site. Although we would like to, because that's one of the easiest ways to treat, we cannot do that on this site. So we've gotten that waiver, and we're probably days away on getting the AOT application. As far as the DOT permit goes, driveway permit goes, we have that in hand. The wetland permit was approved. I think we're heading towards the expiration of it in November, so I may have to extend that in November because
Because this project has gone, it's not your fault, it's gone on for a long time,
Right.
so we're kind of forgetting some of that. So do we have a copy of that highway department?
yes, yep,
We have a copy of that in our file?
Mhm.
From the wetlands?
the wetlands, yes.
Go for the AOT, so that
No,
would have to be.
wait.
The AOT, I will definitely get that to you once that comes in.
So alteration of terrain is the only pending.
So we do have septics on this. So those are pending. However, we work well with Mike Cuomo. I'm guessing Mike Cuomo's. So we have a good record with him and with the state. Usually we get approved on the first time. So, and that's a 7-day process with the state. It's a very minor process. And we typically, because the expirations are shorter on that, we typically do those after the fact because it's not typically under planning board jurisdiction. What is under planning board jurisdiction typically is showing the location of the septics, but not the septic design, which is shown on our utility plans. We do show our 2 septic areas, the septic tanks for this. They're very small systems because we don't have a lot of people. And as far as the wells go, they are private wells now. By separating the 2 wells, we don't need a public water supply well anymore. So we don't have to go for a state permit on that. So I don't have to ask for a temporary wetland crossing,
That was
which,
a nice change.
yes. It was one of those ones that I kicked myself for not thinking of it earlier, but I'm glad that I finally did think of it.
Why don't we use a blanket condition of any and all state permits? Instead of picking through them and potentially missing one, I think the blanket statement would cover it.
Well, it sounds like the alteration of terrain is the only one.
That's
left.
outstanding.
Septics. But we
The
can,
septic sites.
No, we don't require septic, the septic plan doesn't have to be, part of the site plan.
Your general note is probably on as far as this site, NFPA.
Yep.
That's also a blanket one. Is
Yeah.
NFPA, all state.
so I mean, I typically see a lot of times a general condition saying all state and federal permits because that covers your EPA risk and
In the performance bond, that wouldn't be a state.
Only for on site.
So would that be part of your, that'd be a secondary note, line number 2 of your motion?
Correct. Any and all state and federal permits and performance bond.
We typically set a time frame. Now, this may go out, still go on for months.
hopefully not.
I make a motion to approve the application with those conditions
120 days.
from 120 days from now.
So the 120, just for clarification, the 120 days is for the conditional approval?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. To
excellent.
get those 2 conditions taken care of. You don't have to wait 120 days, put your head on.
I'll let you know a little secret, people come back all the time.
Yep.
That was Mark, and I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Now,
Any outstanding questions or discussion before we vote?
I just want to say thank you for all your diligence in responding to our.
Problem.
Any questions from the public?
I wish they were all as good. Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the problems.
You're good. Oh, no, this is, we get a little better
It's
every
new
time.
technology. We're still learning. I can't say I'm the best at technology, but thank you.
All right, now we have a new item, subdivision application. We just lost.
Theodore? Ted?
We lost two people. I don't know, we don't usually, we usually keep people in here for a good 3 hours before we leave.
Somebody's coming on TV tonight.
Is Ned just in the?
He went to the
hall?
bathroom.
Oh, okay. Sorry, give us 60 seconds and, yeah,
Yes.
everybody's got their
Wetlands and stuff.
cups of water tonight.
Also about,
Very good. Here they
it's
come the
10 to
ponds.
15
Here they
degrees
come.
warmer in here than it is in the hallway. I'm actually gonna, is it okay if I open the second door?
Yeah.
Much more temperate.
Yeah. Do we have control over that? I don't know.
It seems to.
It's hot in here
Or
compared to
circulation.
out there.
Oh. Good luck with the dead end.
It's all one zone.
Oh,
No, Marcus had a hot flash.
I am not having a hot flash. I worked outside today, so this is wonderful.
we are still live.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Probably brings up this process.
Keep it light.
We need a snack card.
Just, sure.
You have to go to the,
If you want to go to the microphone. you may.
Okay.
Liz Faria, South Road. I'm wondering, I understand you have 2 openings for alternates, correct?
Yes.
What application do you use?
That's a good
I
question.
couldn't
Yeah.
find anything about it.
We had one. We made one.
We have one. and I
Was
believe
it-
It's on the website.
was it,
On the website, right?
was it specific to the planning board?
Yes, it's specific
Oh,
to the planning board.
I think we just used the template of what the selectmen used, if memory serves me correctly. And that template can be found on the website, Brentwood, under the planning
Yeah,
board
I-
tab.
I didn't see it under planning board, but
Okay.
I might have been looking in
I'll-
the wrong place.
I will find it.
Okay.
Because I think it did have specific, like, check boxes specific to the.
Yeah,
planning
yeah.
board,
I didn't, I've only ever seen the one that's like for everything else that they have.
so- Okay. I
And
will-
do you have like a deadline? Is it like the deadline till filled or?
No, we're in autonomous boards.
it's
Do, I
rolling.
know, that's the only reason I'm applying for is because I
Rolling
can't get on
out.
the other boards to save my life.
Yeah, no, there's no deadline.
Okay. So like after a month, if nobody else has applied, I might have some small shot of actually getting on the planning board because I've now applied 3 times to REC and once or twice to other ones.
Bring it to the next meeting.
He's been on my case, just so you know, so I know Everest. Is Doug the other person who's not here?
Yeah,
Tonight.
and stuff.
Steph?
That is,
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to give me your email?
Sure, it's real easy. Liz Faria, Faria's like Maria with an F, at comcast.net.
Okay, I'll find it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Everybody's here. So we now have a subdivision application from Peter D. Landry, Landry Surveying, owner Theodore Field Jr. Property is located at 136 Prescott Road. Map and lot numbers are on the agenda. The intent of the subdivision is to create a 2.03 acre residential use property with 200.82 feet of frontage from an existing 36.18 parent tract. And we have, you're the applicant, the owner,
The owner.
Okay.
Yes, the owner, Ted.
Do you want to just give us a quick overview of what you're proposing?
Yeah, sure, we're looking basically to take, we live on the property now, we have a house that I grew up in next to it, and we're gonna, we wanna cut a 2-acre lot. My daughter Rebecca wants to build on the property. So, no sense going out buying property, we have plenty of property. And grew up in Brentwood, so we're just looking to cut out a lot and build her a house.
Nice, okay.
You have a copy of the plan?
You know what, we had submitted everything, and I apologize, I didn't.
Last.
Oh, okay.
Last.
I already came and looked. Wednesday.
I really miss our friend.
Sorry, I'm trying to pass stuff out.
You have a digital copy?
Yes, one was submitted, but I have no idea where it is, I'm sorry.
It's, you're much more flustered than you need to be right now.
Well, I can't believe they've been sitting over there all evening when I could have passed them out. It's a 2-page sheet. Front page, and on the bottom is page 2. So it's a bifurcated process
Are
here.
you willing to share?
I will
your
share
2
with
sheets
you.
with me?
Absolutely.
Well, you just took 2 of the
Oh,
front.
you said there was a 2-sheet process.
We do,
But the second one is on the bottom.
in the second page of your packet is Glenn's comment letter, if you guys haven't had a chance to look at that.
Oh, thank you, I'll take that.
During the butters. Oh, sorry, people at home.
They're fine. Sorry, where are Glenn's?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. We're gonna work together here. It's gonna be great.
Sure, yeah. Oh, is that going to sit down?
Yeah, we built with them.
Okay.
This is the other side.
Yeah,
Going to the rest.
I think so.
I just oriented.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you,
okay.
sir.
You want me to hold out your phone? I brought more weights.
My copy.
This one, either way,
Yeah.
they'll make
We'll start out on this.
requests when we get there.
Upside down.
All right, everybody good? Got your drawings? Okay.
So based on Glenn's review here, I'll make a motion to accept the application.
I second that.
Any discussion before we vote on accepting the application? So this is just to.
Vote jurisdiction?
Glenn, did you have any concerns or anything?
There should be a comment letter from me, but I'm sorry, who Bruce motioned for that invoking jurisdiction?
Mark second.
But before we get to the comments, we're just
Yeah.
invoking jurisdiction.
Starting the clock.
So all in favor of invoking jurisdiction?
Aye.
Yep, and then, Glenn, do you want to walk us through your comments?
Yes, except I don't have a copy of them with me, so if I could just.
They're
say
right,
something.
Okay.
Okay, so the very, very simple plan, what they're attempting to do is carve out 1 2-acre lot on Prescott Road, as the owner just stated. You have both jurisdictions, so thank you very much. So my comments are as follows. Number 1, the wetland stamp must be affixed to the final Mylar. A lot of wetland information shown on this. So the plan just needs to, and there's actually a place where you see, this is where the wetland scientist will put his stamp, but it isn't there. So that needs to be done. The plan requires NHDES subdivision approval because the lot is smaller than 5 acres, so that's a subdivision approval number that we always ask to put on the plan as a plan note. The plan needs to incorporate the 2 endorsement blocks found at section 8, paragraph 8.8 of the subdivision regulations. So the first one of that is just the planning board endorsement block. You can't record it without it, and we need to be able to sign it, so that needs to be added. And the impact fee block needs to be added as And I did send these along to Pete Landry by email today, so he has these.
Okay.
So he knows, he has exactly this to know what he has to act.
Okay.
The proposed lot should be designated as Lot A. We have a convention that until the subdivision process is over, there is no lot number given to it because it might conflict in the end with what our tax assessors use as a number.
Okay.
So we asked that be changed from 3.1 to just the letter A. An electronic version of the final plan has to be provided to us. It's okay that you haven't, well, I believe that you have submitted it. We will need to have a final one that has all these notes attached.
Understood, yeah.
The applicant has asked for a waiver from the HIS requirements. And the board needs to act on this. I have no issue with asking for that because they have provided the wetlands information that's actually required at the state level. They show all the wetland setbacks that are required. And their wetland setbacks, in some instances, are actually smaller than ours, but I noticed that in every instance, Peter made sure that our wetland setbacks were met or exceeded. So they don't propose anything closer to a wetland than what our regulation would require. So I don't think there's an issue with that, but the planning board has to make that determination, not me.
Yeah, we've done that consistently in the past, especially with acreage like this where there's 34 acres
Correct.
left.
Correct.
Development.
And finally, the applicant should request a waiver for the survey of the remaining 34 acres because you haven't surveyed the entire 36-acre lot, which is very common.
Right.
But if that isn't going to happen, there has to be a written waiver requesting that.
We did submit that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we have submitted that. Yep.
Thank you very much for doing that.
Do you
No
want
problem.
to see it?
Because that is something that, it's just something the planning board would have to act on. And those were my comments. I found this to be a
Thank you.
good plan. It's not,
Yeah, great
it's not
stories.
rocket science.
It's pretty straightforward.
And Peter's been doing this a long time.
Is there any member of the board that has any comments or discussion that wants to talk about the high-intensity soil sampling?
All I would say, it's been our practice in the past in conditions
I
like
think-
such as this one.
And Glenn's explanation of what's going on here was pretty encompassing of the waiver. I'd like to make a motion to approve that waiver,
But
the high-intensity soil sampling.
both, are you gonna do a two-part or?
I'm gonna do it in two
Separate.
parts for
Separate.
discussion.
Okay.
Yes,
For discussion's sake, I think we should do it in two parts.
She's reading up, she's reading.
Do we have the request for that waiver in writing?
Yeah, I emailed that and
Okay, well, so we have the parent lot waiver request. Do we have the other one that is?
I think it was this one that we just signed.
Maybe it's, is it in here? I just want to make sure, because it just looked.
We want to have them both, and I know that I've
Yeah.
seen that one.
It's right here.
Did I see it on the plan?
It's right here on the plan.
Subdivision.
Yes, subdivision
Oh,
waiver
waiver
request. I knew I had seen it.
Okay. We got it. It's on the
You got it.
plan
We actually
itself.
put it on the
Okay.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure we had it in writing.
I knew I had seen it.
Okay, any discussion before we vote on the waiver for the HISS revision? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Surveying the rest of the 34 acres.
So you're making a motion to,
Not require, or.
I want discussion to take place, and if we'll discuss it, and then I'll make a motion. Someone will make a motion.
gotcha.
Or do we have to make a motion a second before we discuss it?
No, we
No.
don't need to do that.
I just try to pause.
We're
before we
autonomous
vote.
here.
Um,
Do our own thing.
so does everybody have, there's a copy of the waiver request for, having to survey the,
The reason I think
Parent
the
track.
waiver should go forward, because these boundary lines don't go anywhere near any other property line, except for the frontage line.
This high
If
dry
we were
land.
talking about somebody else's boundary line across the way, then I would say, yeah, we might have to survey the entire lot. But it doesn't have anything to do with any other boundary line that concerns anyone.
It's some of the highest acreage on the whole road.
I mean, if this, that's my reasoning for wanting to.
If it were,
request them to approve that waiver.
abutting any other property.
Correct, it's
It's
only
in- it's
affecting him.
interior. It's
his
interior.
property,
Interior,
right, it
yeah.
can only be being affected as him.
and,
so
and
I-
just for the record, there are no abutters here.
Just me, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. All right.
You are. Any other discussion?
I'll second that.
I'll make a motion.
Any final discussion before voting in favor of accepting the waiver request for not having to survey the parent track? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any discussion or questions about the subdivision
Things
and
that we want to talk about?
on?
Did do the waiver.
I'm gonna ask if the board make a condition that the second waiver, the one that was just adopted, actually get placed on the plan like the first waiver was
In the notes.
in the note section.
Mhm.
So the condition would be to have the second waiver in the notes of the plan.
Correct.
Are there any other conditions?
The subdivision, state subdivision approval, I believe is still out there.
Any and all state
Number
requirements.
You can say it that way. Yes, you can say it.
Blocks.
It covers it all.
And the note for the first waiver request would need to be a note, but
And
approved.
adding the two endorsement blocks.
And the 2 endorsement blocks. So that's 3 conditions?
Oh, we didn't talk about, the plan show a 40 by 80 square foot block for
Yes.
proposed home.
Yeah, that, the board can consider that one. Our standard says 40 by 80, and this is
Oh,
like
is this the envelope?
37 by 70. It isn't the exact measurement, but what we want is, we want always to see the proposed location, to see if, so that somebody buying it would know they would be able to put in a deck at some point.
Right, all the dimensional
or whatever.
setbacks.
So in essence, they've covered it, but not to the T. So the board can request that he change that box into 40 by 80, or they could accept that knowing it's less.
We can put it in as a condition of the approval.
You could.
And why don't we do that? That's the easiest and simplest. Notes have to be added to the plan.
Right, he needs
So
to
it's-
update the plan.
Why not to be
so-
consistent, we do the
yeah.
40 by 80. Normally.
Correct.
Yep.
There's plenty of uplands there. It's not constrained in any
It
way.
is not in any way.
No. So that's a number 4 condition. The
These
house.
conditions will all be sent to Peter?
They will indeed.
Perfect.
Okay, so I have the NHDES subdivision approval, updating the proposed home square to 40 by 80, updating the note about the HISS waiver as being approved, adding a note about the survey item being approved, waiver item being approved.
Endorsement block?
Well, no, the HIS one is on there.
The HIS one's already on.
Oh, but it says.
Well, it just says request.
Oh, well, you're right, I'll have him change that.
To approve,
They won't say requested, they'll say granted.
granted, okay. And then
Endorsement
the
block?
endorsement blocks, which is number 3 on the comments. So it's basically comments, well, and then the wetland stamp. So comment 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh, and changing the line.
Five.
Changing
So one through 5.
1 through 5, and then 7 and 8 need to be noted as approved.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's not on here that we've talked about?
Very straightforward.
Any other discussion, questions?
So is that a motion?
Not
As
yet.
soon as we're done with
Oh, okay.
this,
Fair enough.
Just getting them
Yeah.
squared
Anything
away.
you want to discuss?
No, no.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application with the
Conditions as,
conditions of, thank
dis-
you, that's stated.
Was the impact fee on here?
No, it's not, and that's one of the 2. We have, that's one.
The endorsement block.
That's number
Okay,
3.
That's the endorsement. Oh, no, endorsement.
I'll second the.
Any final discussion?
Great job.
All in favor? Wait, all in favor?
I,
Thank you. Yeah.
the state rule.
No. The state requires, they will grant subdivision approval on any lot created that's smaller than 5 acres. If you're creating a lot in any town in the state and it's larger than 5 acres, NHDES takes no jurisdiction. It just assumes that you can, that's a buildable lot. They take no jurisdiction. Anything bigger than 5 acres. Then there has to be a state subdivision approval as well as a local subdivision. Really?
But our thing is 2 acres.
Correct.
Unless it's a cluster development.
Wouldn't that tie into soil type? They want to make sure there's the correct soil type on 2 acres?
I don't know,
I don't know.
State of New Hampshire.
Do anything. Right,
They-
okay.
they-
That's the only thing I can figure out.
Our wetland ordinance.
I was
more
just gonna
strict,
say,
our
the
soil
wetlands
more
buffer.
strict. Well, we have a buffer, they don't think there's any need for a buffer to wetland at all. Ours is
100.
dependent upon how valuable this wetland is.
Prime is 100, isn't it? Prime is 100?
Yep.
Actually, I just did have one question on the proposed driveway locations. Do we need a driveway permit due to the fact that it's a scenic road?
Well, you need a permit anyway.
You need a permit anyway, you get that.
That's what I was gonna, are you using the existing opening?
No, we're not gonna be up by the barway. She's gonna be down further to
Okay.
the S-curve.
So what you need to do is if any tree that's in the right of way.
Yeah.
That's over 15 inches in diameter. I think it's 15 inches in diameter. You
Yeah.
need to come back and see it.
We say
The
that,
planning board, because it's a scenic road, any tree that's in the right of way,
The
of the
planning board
town's
or the
right of
select-
way,
yeah,
you need to come back and see us and request to cut them down. But I will give you this cautionary tale. If this, you got plenty of frontage there to play with.
right,
So try to find a place where you don't have to cut it.
okay,
Then you won't have to come back and see it.
gotcha.
How about that?
I mean, you can come back anytime, Teddy, it's just.
Yeah, you can come back anytime to
Probably
visit,
I'd love to come back to visit.
right?
Give you too much information here, but if you go to the selectman's office, you fill out an application for a driveway permit.
Yeah.
And Wayne will come out, or not Wayne, but the town engineer comes out and.
Okay, I think we're waiting on that, I think we're waiting for the town engineer, was his
You need to
note.
worry about the trees after that.
Okay,
Anything inbound of the stone wall, cut it.
was that?
Anything inbound of the stone, cut it down, it's on your property.
Right, okay, yeah, that's right, right. I know once we get past whatever that buffer is, we can do what we want.
Just what's in the right of way.
Yeah.
All right, we have some other board business.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This, in the back of your packet, there was a letter from regarding an unpermitted structural change to an existing building. It looks like this. Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna ask you.
Maybe you should come over here to the table, Glenn.
Yeah, it was
Just saying.
in the.
He
Happy
hasn't
to
done
show.
that in 40 years.
Yep.
That's not no.
Is there even an address in there?
Yes.
266 Route 125.
It's the former Bessie's.
Is the former what?
Bessie's.
Bessie's?
Isn't that
Oh,
Yes.
it is?
Of course it is.
Indeed it is. Right, there should have been an address at least on it.
There is.
There is.
But I don't know
There is
what
266
Route 25 is.
So Bessie's did a lot of a lot of renovation work on the premise that if they reopened as a restaurant, there would be no need for site plan review.
Mm-hmm.
But the restoration they did completely is not structural engineer go in and investigate. There's a lot replacement that has to happen to the new construction.
Accurate.
So so Kip has said absolutely no certificate of occupancy will be granted there until a lot of work is done. The present owner is making up their mind whether they're just going to try to sell their way out.
Was a building permit ever issued?
That's what I'm looking up right now.
I do not believe so. And he went out
Oh,
several
yes,
times
yes, right.
during when they were doing renovations and said, you guys need to stop what you're doing and come talk to me. And they didn't.
They clearly proceeded the wrong way.
They did, and although it looks way nice, it's apparently far from way nice.
Hackery.
So there's no action for us?
No action
This
for the
is
planning
for
board.
our information, okay.
Hmm.
Thank you. The next item is
Sorry. They did submit a building application.
what's the
There was a permit ever signed by the Board of Selectmen?
Date?
That's been my question for about 10 months.
Well, I'm looking. Yes. Yes. I think. Does that say approvals? Board of Selectmen, yeah,
Board of Selectmen.
9/27/23. Remove existing roof structure. Secure existing exterior walls with adequate
Yes, it
framing.
was a demo permit.
No, this is a building permit.
Building permit was issued in error because it was those structural concerns.
I don't think we should talk about it because it really doesn't
Yeah.
concern us.
No,
Don't-
there was some question about whether or not there was.
Yeah.
I guess why is this in front of the planning board at all?
It says action notify planning board.
Cool.
So we are being
Okay.
notified.
It's just notification.
I think we should just leave it right there.
The next item and also is,
Moving
oh,
on.
I'm sorry, Becky, you probably
No,
want
just quick question.
Yeah.
Glenn, could I have a copy of the packet for Lambert? I just see what you received this evening for it, just so I can review it if anyone asks me questions on the conservation, because if there's any packet, that would be great.
We could just email it to you.
Anything, yes.
It's gonna be easier to just.
It's been going on for about a year and a half.
I know, but I just wanna.
You just want a plan set. I thought you wanted a plan.
I think she does. I think she wants.
You're better off getting the electronic one after it's.
Yeah.
100%.
We need to put all this stuff online. We gotta figure out how to do that.
That's an interesting question, isn't it?
That's the goal.
I mean, we get these, we get the plan sets in PDF form, and we can review them on our computers, but what we
Yeah.
don't, if we make changes, kind of as the process goes along, the plan changes over time.
Yeah,
We never, but the office does, so I answer my question, we can come in and look at it.
yeah, but it would be nice to have things.
But if it's a digital
online.
copy, we could just have it someplace like on the OneDrive or
Just
something where
need
you
to
can
all
go in.
be
Mhm.
dated, so that,
That's not a bad idea.
yeah,
I'll be what?
they all need to be dated so we can tell, like.
Yeah,
change.
but
We don't have OneDrive.
Yes, you do.
Um,
Yes, you do.
that's all
Through your
public.
town email. Yes, you do.
yeah, I don't have access to anything but Outlook, as I asked recently, because I wanted to share a Word doc, and I do not have access to Word or Share
That's
Drive.
really interesting.
That costs more money.
I did not know that
I'm
was
an
not universal throughout
Outlook
the.
only user.
Okay.
And I was told to use Google Docs, because it's free.
Okay.
While on that topic, I am never, ever sending any of you another thing by way of your personal emails.
Yeah, I've stopped.
So-
Sometimes it defaults.
After
After
today.
yesterday. Yesterday was the last time.
I like it.
I will send comments that aren't going to your first initial, last name, Brentwood, New Hampshire. So Mark, no, never coming to you again.
I don't
except
even know
for
how to
Mark.
open that
You
other
can-
email.
Would you like?
Forward
Call
it.
Would you
Karen,
like
she
me
has
to
the
help
password.
you?
Karen?
Karen has the password.
So,
And then you
all
can
right,
just go in and.
this is gonna get,
On any Wednesday, you come in and see me,
Forward it.
step across the hall, and Karen can give you that.
this is the, all right, can we just talk
No,
about this
no,
for a
no,
second?
No, we're not. There's no discussion.
Let's-
We can talk
let's-
about it
You are
later.
going to
Yeah,
have,
let's-
you have a Brentwood email, and that's what you're going to use. I'm
Or-
sorry,
Let's
that's-
save this
that's what
for
you're going to
after our.
Okay, I'll
our-
save this, my apologies,
live
we'll save it for
meeting.
after.
Okay, so the next item is also a notice for an FYI from, well, it's from,
Epping.
well, it's from Sanborn Head, so I don't know who that is, but the developer.
Trash people.
But it's about a proposal for a solid waste transfer facility in Epping, but it's close to our border. I haven't looked at the
Yeah,
Regional impact.
address.
I don't know if it is, but it's actually, it looks like it's about an eighth of a mile, west of City Line.
Hold on.
27.
What is it again, a
Hold on,
transfer
I'm
station?
looking.
It's a regional solid waste transfer station
Hmm.
of 750 tons of material a day.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna stink, dude.
Which probably isn't a lot, it just sounds like a lot.
Well, they're dumping it out and
because
sorting it
stuff-
through it, dude.
Because stuff is heavy, but that still seems like a lot.
Of residential garbage
Oh, no, it's, it-
or,
I
an
think it's what
Erco.
used to be Airco.
oh, Erco is moving.
Airco's,
Well, no, that's where they are. They're about an acre. But they're-
I think
No,
this
they're-
is,
They're the other way.
No,
this
This is toward remarkably the Piscassic River.
Well, it's 270 Exeter Road. Are you looking at the map?
But if Erc,
She has the actual map, so we can.
700 tons daily? Wow.
well, I know what Erco does.
No, that's, it's received annually,
I've
Huh?
daily,
I have
on
intimate
average,
knowledge about what they do,
annually.
But
I know, on average annually.
delivered it.
I don't want
So-
to know about your.
No, it doesn't.
The
Oh,
first
no,
number
I
says
still,
750
when I was younger, I used
So
to.
this,
tons,
this,
and then it
this
says
is where the
annually
pin drops,
2,000
which
tons.
is, this is the Airco driveway,
Right.
right?
It
This
makes
is the
no sense.
dragway.
No, it couldn't be.
But the
Zero.
important thing here is.
Well, that's received
Right, there's
daily.
North Road.
stored.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
gonna
that it's
be
gonna come in and
750
go out.
Yeah, there'll be like
Yeah.
a delay.
So anyway, this is letting us know that a public process is.
Yeah.
So,
It's an
I misheard. At first, I thought you said 750 tons daily, and I was like, what is happening?
well, it's hard to.
It says that.
Oh, it is daily? I thought it.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be like
No.
70 trash trucks.
Wait, so it's not
But it says
annually, it's
daily,
daily?
but then it says on average annually.
Yeah, that's why I'm confused.
So
'cause
it's very.
So I think what
confusing.
they-
I don't know. I mean.
I think what they mean is they're averaging over a year to get a daily rate of 750 tons.
That's, oh, I mean, I don't know a lot about garbage, but.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, you think about a tractor trailer, right? It hauls 40,000 pounds worth of stuff. That's 20 tons for every tractor trailer load.
Yeah.
So that can add up quickly.
There's all sorts of.
It's a state road.
So a couple of things. One is, if anyone is interested in this, there's information in here about how to see the application, who to ask questions. It doesn't say anything about a hearing being scheduled, does it?
It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. flow
It
chart.
goes down here that eventually,
But there's no,
public hearing.
no date.
in here. Yeah, there is no date.
So I wonder if we can get on an email list to be notified of. Just FYI, if we're, even if we're to comment, write a comment letter or anything like that, I would recuse myself because I work in the industry.
Trash industry? Really?
How did I not know that about you?
I'll explain later.
There's way too many jokes. I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I guess.
so, okay, so take a look, maybe,
And perhaps
I'll,
again,
I'll ask if we can just get on a distribution list for notices.
and really, it might make sense that the responses actually come from the Board of Selectmen, not from the planning board. We could.
Are you
inform-
asking me to, did the select board get this?
I'm thinking we got it from the Board of Selectmen. Does it say that it went to the
It
planning
just
board?
says Town of Brentwood.
The
So that would've gone to the
select
planning
board?
to the Board of Selectmen.
Select board?
So
Do you want to make sure that they've gotten it though? Okay.
my
It's
question
possible
would be,
that our
should
mail
it be of regional impact?
Well, that's up to them.
Not us.
It's a state.
Just being informed.
Should be.
That's, one would think it would be, but that's a determination that.
Well, and keep in mind, this is
Well, what I'm-
this is a solid waste permit application to the state. That's separate from whatever Epping would do as a site. Right.
Well, what I'm trying to do is help the selectmen formulate a letter to send in the eventuality that this does come to a site plan review for the town of Epping.
Yeah,
But there's two
Yeah,
processes.
I think it's more appropriate that that letter go out once the application.
Yes,
has been filed.
100%,
Not now.
100%.
This is-
that's just an information.
Right, I'm just trying to formulate in my mind what we could say to them that, you know, that we might,
If you want
might be helpful. Thank
to
you.
send Letty questions that the select board could ask, like, somebody mentioned trucks, like the number of trucks.
Chances are Epping will make this a regional impact because they've done that on all the 6 solid.
Oh, they have. Some communities treat it differently, you know, and some. you
Would that
never-
be
you
the
never
planning
know.
board?
Yes.
It's,
Hey.
it's the,
Yeah, it's
it's
not
the
on our
trash
agenda.
place to the left of the dragway. It used to be
Um,
ERCO, but now it's
Resource Waste Services.
Resource Waste Services. Apparently they got bought out.
So is this physically gonna take place on the Urkel property?
So basically, I think what, they're just reapplying. Or they want to make it larger, I don't know.
Or they're switching type.
No, it's going to become a municipal facility. ERCO was never a
Municipal, it was a
Municipal
private.
and
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
construction and demolition.
And Letty, when I looked at the map, it didn't look like it was the ERCO facility. It looked like it was further west of the ERCO facility.
And municipal in this context doesn't, it doesn't mean public,
I don't,
it just, that's the type of waste.
I don't know
Can include other.
how else to have that conversation. I don't, do you want, oh, I do know.
Plug yourself in.
Plug myself in.
Or honestly, let's go on to the next.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
show you later.
So, minutes
Moving
from June 20th
Oh,
are,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay, has everybody had a chance to,
I did read them.
I don't know.
Very well done, I might say.
staff,
Oh, Steph did these.
even in her absence, sent us these last night.
What's that? Did you make that motion?
I did not.
Wait,
Mark did.
No, no.
Sorry, Justin.
Yeah.
Second,
Any changes, discussion,
Letty.
questions? All in favor?
Aye.
of
Aye.
approving The minutes, aye, thank you.
any abstentions?
Oh,
Anyone not
I'm
here?
sorry. Any abstentions?
I'm always,
I wasn't here, but I read it.
But you read it, that's
So,
fine.
You know, I mean,
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, sometimes I jump ahead. There were some questions from the last meeting. Did you have a chance to look at sidewalk?
Yes.
Do you have any information?
Yes, I do. After what was a really long search, the condo documents clearly state that the sidewalks are the responsibility of the condominium association.
Yes,
And
we were very specific about that.
Yeah,
Square one,
there-
yes.
I have copies here for people to see, but I think at some point I was going to write a letter to the Board of Selectmen.
Well, we didn't, we postponed the decision. I want to make a motion tonight to.
Do you have a
Send the
copy?
board.
May I, please? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I want to make a motion to, that the planning board send a letter to the Board of Selectmen advocating that they accept phase 1 of the Two Farms development. And I'd like to make darn sure that amendment, or what do you call them, add-on things.
Addendum?
Well,
No.
to make reference, to send them a copy of the minutes, or not the minutes, but the
Of the condo
verbiage of
document.
the condo documents, stating that as part of the planning board's recommendation, that we
Numbers.
call their attention to the fact that the plowing and maintenance of the sidewalks are the responsibility of the homeowners association, and no cost should be borne by the town.
Was there a bond issue? Did we release some bond money?
Yes.
We did
Town
release
engineer
it.
has written us a letter saying he advocates that we accept. And then we all went over and walked the road.
You did, and they asked if they could also do top coat for phase 2.
Well, I guess that's actually up to them, isn't it? It has to go through, what, 2 frost cycles first? That's the question the TEC should answer. TEC is
Right.
aware of what they're doing.
The engineers should be telling them that.
So if TEC is okay with that,
Yes,
can that be part of this?
yes, it just can't be accepted with the third anniversary, but if
Right.
TEC has any subgrade issues prior to the installation of that wear course.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion to send a letter to the select board recommending that they accept the road,
Phase one.
phase one, with a note, with documentation from the HOA docs that the sidewalk is the responsibility as agreed upon. It's a responsibility of HOA.
And that they could do the wear course for phase two.
I think we should separate this out.
Yeah, we should
Oh,
separate.
alright.
I think we should separate it out. Yeah, I'll second it.
Do we have any assurances from the HOA that they're actually going to do that?
It doesn't matter.
It's part of their approval.
It's part of their condo documents.
Part of their condo documents, whether they do it or not is completely up to them, but we are not responsible for it.
We're not liable,
We're not live, thank you.
which is I think why you're asking, right?
Yeah.
Because you were concerned that if the sidewalks don't get cleared,
Mhm.
would we be liable for accessibility
So
stuff?
Martin made that motion.
No, Bruce made the motion, I seconded it. All in favor?
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Just me.
Was there one?
Mm-hmm.
Letty?
So
6-1, 7-1, no.
You want to state the reason why?
You're opposed to
Um,
sending a letter to the selectmen?
I'm opposed to accepting the road.
Well, then you would make that at your selectmen's meeting,
Okay.
what you just.
So this is actually a good question. Should I abstain?
Yeah, I would abstain if I.
Okay.
Probably would be best.
But see, part of the approval process that we signed off on, legally recorded at the registry, is that these are the provisions of the road, what they need to do for a town maintained road.
Mm-hmm.
And we agreed to that, when we did the approval of the subdivision.
But the planning board can't accept the road.
No.
Correct.
So the planning board can't bind the select
No,
board to do
no,
it.
but what's gonna bind you is the fact that the law is that we agreed, we signed off for the town of Brentwood, that as long as they met these certain criteria, one of which is road construction
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, that on the third anniversary of the initial subgrade to be
Mhm.
complete, the town will accept, and we've accepted every other one in 47 years that I've been on the board.
My question would be, is why wouldn't you?
Because I think there should be an impact fee.
On a roadway?
Right.
Absolutely.
But you get
Well, that's like,
the
but that's,
carts before the horse. First, you get your impact fee in your regulations, then you
Mhm.
apply it. But no court, that you're gonna be laughed out of Superior Court because you don't have those.
So I personally am not worried about being laughed out of Superior Court because I'm one person. I've been talking about having the impact fee for the roads for the highway department for probably 4 years at this point.
but it's a public roadway.
It's not a public roadway yet.
Right.
Yeah.
We are, so, and maybe this is because I'm on this, so when you were a kid, how many plow trucks were there?
Answer the question.
No, but so,
No,
so we
I'm
have.
gonna answer that
we-
question with a statement, okay?
Okay,
If the town stayed the same size as it was, there'd be the same amount of plow trucks on the road than that when I was 12.
yes,
But then you added all these homes in. Well, these homes
Yes.
don't just sit there and not pay taxes. They pay taxes just as well as you and I
And
and
impact.
everybody else. So
they don't
with
pay
that,
impact fees for the roads.
with that taxation,
Is my point.
That's gonna be a minor dollar value.
with that
It's
taxation,
all a minor dollar value. I
with
guess,
that taxation, you take that taxation and you get them services. That's what taxation is all about.
then why do we, so to Glenn's point, why do
Glenn
we
does
have?
not like
I know,
impact
but
fees
I
whatsoever.
understand.
You're barking up the
So-
wrong tree. It's
I
double
understand.
taxation.
So-
Tax however you want, it's America.
Right.
And what I said last time, which is what I will say again this time, is if we're gonna double tax for police and fire and school,
Right.
why can't we do it for highway?
Yeah,
too?
but why does 55 communities not pay the school portion of an impact fee then?
I don't know. I didn't write the impact fee ordinance.
What if you've never driven in your life? Maybe you don't drive. But you still should pay that impact fee?
Can we table this for?
What if your
Absolutely
house
we
never
can.
catches on fire and so you shouldn't have to pay for the fire department?
No, that's not really
This
kind
is,
of relevant.
yeah, we're in different.
We're
All right,
talking
we're
about a
getting-
roadway, driving on
I
a road.
think we've talked a little bit about the next time we do the impact fees, we need to have this discussion.
I actually asked if we could have the discussion sooner since you don't have anyone to do the next impact fee
Well,
study.
you have a good point, but I think you have to look into you could do this because you're good at research, look into the methodology of impact fees to learn what value based on the cost of highway budget, what realistic value would you hope to gain from a road impact fee? Would it, in other words, would it be enough instead of what do we do pay now? The average home pays what, $9 grand?
Mhm.
So it might only be like $100 that you would get. for
Okay.
You're not gonna tell
So-
Letty, you're not gonna tell Letty that $100, that you're gonna get $100 is better than you're not gonna get $100.
Yeah, so Glenn, could you, I know that the impact fee person that we've used in the past, we hired,
I have
have you
I've
heard?
asked, I have
You
not
have
found,
asked.
I have asked and I have not found someone to replace them, but there has to be.
Somebody has to be doing this.
Somebody has to be doing
Do
it.
you- do you have like a
your point.
I think-
Oh,
online?
I'm-
message
Cost
board that
benefit.
you-
Yeah.
I'm also not upset. This is just the way my face
could you-
looks.
could you-
I appoint Lenny to be the new,
Nope.
impact.
Yeah.
Uh-uh. Nope.
You are
Alright.
the impact fees.
Just a
czar.
second,
Okay.
Liz, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. So it was my understanding, because my husband used to be on the select board, but it was my understanding when Three Ponds built their buildings, again, they were asked to make something bigger for the fire trucks, because they weren't, I don't know, turning around or something.
Well, there was some discussion about that during the planning process. but
Right,
those-
and they said, we won't do it.
No, they did.
No,
They didn't say that? Okay.
No.
I thought that was the discussion, because I remember my husband saying, they're not gonna make the road big enough, so we shouldn't, the fire trucks coming around or something, so we should not assume them for the town. So there was none of that discussion?
No, they got built for council.
Yes, and signed off by the
And
fire.
if you go out there, so on our site walk, one of the things that we looked at is there is a difference between the road and some driveways where there are multiple houses on a driveway, but it's not part of the road and wouldn't be considered.
Some of the small
Falling
circles
under-
as well.
And what about when the owner's house? That's in a fire truck to be down there?
What house?
I don't know.
No, I think that's Sunset,
Yeah.
and that's one that the town-owned road portion is only the first third of it.
Only to the bridge.
And the second, the 2/3 beyond
That
that,
would be
where
their
the homes
own
are, that's
personal
theirs.
thing. Okay, not the owner.
They like anybody living on a
They
long
must have changed it,
driveway.
because I remember back then. We're not
Okay,
gonna decide.
so Glenn is going to ask the planning community in New Hampshire,
Yeah,
who's working on impact fees, and we'll try to get, how often do we do that?
I think you do it every 10 years. I think you could do it every 5 years. It's just a function of, yeah, putting the money out.
We
and
need to
doing
know,
it.
yeah, we need to know how much it costs to make sure.
Cost $6,000 last time.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah, but, okay, so we'll see if we can find somebody and schedule that in. Last time we talked about a request from the fire chief to.
I'm sorry. Should we go back and, is
Oh,
there,
we never finished.
is there any interest in saying that if, because I believe TEC has already said to Joe and John that they could do the workforce on phase 2.
Well, if TEC says it meets the
I believe that he has,
But
but I would
don't
just,
see what the selectmen have to do with that.
no, this is a request by. the
Oh, I
applicant.
see, I'm sorry.
Do we have a letter?
He's requested this every time he's requested us to vote on the road.
TEC
And he's been
signs
waiting,
off,
he's
the
been
bond
waiting
is
since
there.
April.
The bond money is still being held by the town. of Brentwood.
Exactly.
As long as they meet TEC's sign off.
What would you make that motion?
I'm motion made.
What's the motion?
Motion is to,
Allow them
send-
to do the workforce through phase 2 if TEC approves it.
if it conforms with our
Well,
road
he would,
street.
he would only approve it if it conformed to our standards.
Everybody good with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, so this is a separate motion, or is this all? Aye.
Okay.
What was
sorry,
that vote? I'm sorry.
All.
All in favor, sir.
Um, So last time we talked about the fire chief wanted to eliminate a hydrant, and you were going to follow up and ask for details on that? Was he also asking for the easement?
He was asking for the easement to be eliminated in the campus. So he and I are still talking.
Still talking, okay.
But
Okay.
he understands it's the planning board's position that easement is part of the subdivision.
I
Right.
believe I can convince him of that.
Well, we don't have to convince him.
Well, let me talk.
You'll give us
So
an
we
update.
ain't giving up the easement.
I understand exactly.
All right, next is, there was a letter requesting, closing a letter of credit for something that we did
Yes,
not
for
think
Tanya
was
Lane.
completed.
And I, in a fit of restrained nastiness, called the owner and said that he can't do that. The letter of credit can't end because Tanya Lane is not completed. And so Rob understood what I was saying. I called the bank. The bank said, yes, disregard our self-ending letter. We thought everything was done. We're extending the letter of credit until he finishes it. So
Okay.
we accomplished what we needed to accomplish.
Disaster
The letter of
averted.
credit still is in place.
Disaster averted.
Thank you. And then on the housing stuff, I checked in with RPC. She's finishing up the work, and getting it, I think she said early next week, to us, to make sure that they can, invoice us, submit the final report, and we can request our last reimbursement so that everything is done by the deadline. So as soon as I get that, I can send it to everybody. We'll still have to vote to accept the master plan chapters, but that doesn't need to be done before the grant is up.
And we really don't need RPC. They're gonna have to spend time.
No, we can
We
do
can.
that.
I think we can save that money.
Yeah, we can.
I think we can update
handle
master plan.
Holding a public hearing
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. And then I signed up for a webinar on the next round of funding. And anybody else is welcome to do it. I think it's, forgetting the name of the grant program.
The HOP,
The HOP grant program. So I'm sure if you go to their website, you can find it there. But it's just supposed to provide information about how to apply, what the next round is about, all that good stuff. So, but I think we should still plan on applying.
Oh, wasn't the inference that they were successful with the first round of grant funding?
It's not guaranteed, but you have, there's a preference for,
It's an ongoing process. So if you've started the process.
and that's the part we really need. Like, we learned a lot, but now what do? We need some help redoing some ordinances potentially. So that's really where we need the help. Okay, any other items for the board?
I think we're good.
That was a lot.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Just saying.
There's nothing else to talk about.
Second
Might
it?
as well adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor of
Aye.
Aye.
In fact, Mark, here's what you got. You got a copy.
What time is it?
This is for your personal email.
9 on the dot.